A frequently asked question that I get is how to stitch letters. I'm going to show you a traditional way to stitch a letter in different 10 stitches, and then a padded way or cross stitch way to give letters a little extra coverage. When I think of how I'm going to stitch on a canvas, I like to think of basically the route I'm going to go. So with something like an N, you'd want to start at one of these two ends. You'd want to come down, go up and come down, versus coming down, not really knowing where to go, and then kind of hopping around. So you always want to think about like your path of least resistance here. So I am going to just start down here. You can really start wherever you'd like on the canvas. We are going to anchor our thread around and just do a basic, we're gonna anchor our thread and hold it down better this time. And just do a basic continental stitch for this bottom part. Remember, you want to stitch around your tail to make sure it's really secure and knotted in. Now we're going to go up to the top of the end, going vertically, again, doing a continental stitch. Now that I've stitched all the way up to this top row, I'm gonna just pop over right here to again figure out my path of least resistance and do a continental stitch across the top. Now I'm going to go diagonally down the N. And again, we are just crossing over the intersection. This technically is a basket weave stitch since we are going on the diagonal. I have videos on how to do a continental and a basket weave stitch if you're interested in checking out those, but we're just starting from the bottom left, going over to the top right. You can see my thread is twisting on each other, so I'm just gonna kind of let my needle hang, untwist, and then continue stitching. When stitching letters or multiple colors or places where you just have to jump around and there's no straight line, I always say it's okay to carry as long as it's no more than an inch, 2 inches max. And you also want to make sure that if you are stitching a white background, that your white background is fully stitched first before you decide to carry any thread. That is mainly because if you have a white background and I carry my green thread from here to here over it, when I start to stitch that white, that green is going to actually show through, and that's not something that you really want for your needlepoint. It's a lesson that we all learn the hard way, and so if I can kind of share my advice to don't do what I do, hopefully it will save you some heartache in the future. Okay, and now we have completed our N. I'm going to anchor this top stitch. This is ideally what the back of your N looks like. I'm going to trim off the tail. And this is what the front of your end looks like. So as you can see with this end, we actually don't have any stitches or coverage between here. So these, you know, do make a straight line, where something like this kind of has open gaps. So there will be almost like little stripes across. A good way to fix that, and something I like to do is, I don't know the official term for it, but I just call it padding my letters. And I will show you what that means. So I'm just gonna continue to stitch all of this like normal, and then we will pick up when I get to this diagonal. Now we are ready to stitch our diagonal, and what I want to do is I kind of want to find the line that would cover it if I were to just do a satin stitch across. So think of it like, you know, where would I want this thread to go to cover completely? So I start at the top of that intersection, I drop it down here. And so it kind of looks like this. And now what I like to do is I like to go back up to the top and do my normal stitching, but I do it over this thread that I just put down. So it's like cross stitch in a way where you are getting that X shape. We're just kind of laying the thread down and then stitching over it. So you can individually cross stitch all of these. I like the idea of just doing one long line and then stitching over it, just because I think it's a little bit easier and less clunky, but it is totally up to you and your personal preference. So we just stitch over this normal area and then continue stitching like normal. And you can kind of see the difference in the two letters, where one has a little bit more coverage and will protect the line, making sure that it is straight when stitched around it, versus just a normal basket weave across.